Welcome to Law Excellence Hindu News Analysis. Today we are going to cover these four topics that are appeared in the Hindu newspaper. Now, before going to the first article, just pause the video and try to answer this UPSC Prelims PYQ that was asked regarding Article 142. Now, the question says that with reference to Constitution of India, prohibitions or limitations or provisions contained in the ordinary laws cannot act as a prohibitions or limitations on the constitutional powers under the Article 142. It could mean which of the following. Just identify that how this Article 142 is related to the Election Commission of India or Supreme Court of India or President of India or something related to the state legislatures. So try to answer this question by yourself. Now coming to the first article of the day. Now this article says that Supreme Court puts brakes on the bulldozer culture. Now what this article is about. Now recently Supreme Court is hearing many appeals regarding arbitrary action of the state, especially the executive, against demolition of the houses on the name of illegal encroachments. Now in this context, this article is important to discuss, especially from the prelims and mains perspective. Now how it is related to the prelims? Because in this news, Supreme Court used Article 142 to do the complete justice. Now UPSC has a habit of asking regarding articles of the polity. Now if you see previous year question just now, we discussed about the Article 142. So in this way, this is relevant. Now other important thing that this article is relevant to the mains also. Now how it is relevant? Now this article as a news can be used as an example in multiple places. For example, if it is asked about rule of law, if it is asked about principles of natural justice, due process of law, something like that. Now, many people read the newspaper, but they don't know how to link the newspaper to the UPSC syllabus. Now, there is a smart way in which you can use one news article to the multiple GS papers. For example, this article is there, that is Supreme Court breaks from bulldozer culture. Now, from the GS paper one perspective, you can use this in GS Indian society also. For example, you can say that religious minorities are subjected to the bulldozer justice. Now, this is one of the issue you can use as an example in communalism as a concept. You can use in the GS paper 1 also, right? Now, under the GS paper 2, you can use in questions where there is an issue of rule of law, principles of natural justice, violation of Article 21, the principles of separation of power. Now, how you can use, I will explain in this. Now, you can use the same article in GS paper 4 also. Now, how you can use? Now, in this article, there is a mention about institutional accountability. See here, institutional accountability. Now, which means that this article is saying if the officers not followed the due process of law while implementing the demolition process, that officers has to be accountable. Now, accountability as a topic is there in the syllabus topic of the GS paper 4, right? So you can use this as a topic as an example there also. Now, this is the smart way of linking one news article to the multiple GS papers or multiple syllabus terms within the same GS paper also. Now, after reading the news, just give yourself 1 minute time so that you can link one news article to the multiple GS papers. Now, this is the smart way of reading newspaper. Now, coming to the news article today. Now, it is with the said that in this context of bulldozer culture, Supreme Court issues certain directions to the executive and legislature, and before that, it highlighted certain issues about the bulldozer culture. Bulldozer justice. See, this bulldozer justice, this demolition of houses, is against the rule of law as per the Supreme Court. Why it is said that there is no law that is allowing the government to completely demolish the houses in one night. Now, on which law basis you are demolishing the houses? The court questioned the executive. Now, rule of law is part of the basic structure of the constitution. Hence, this is against the basic structure also. That is what the court is saying. Now, other important thing, the court said that this demolition issue does not following the principles of natural justice. Why? Because every victim or accused person has a right to hear, or the opportunity to hear. Because everything has a two perspectives, right? Now, from their perspective also, we should hear what is their opinion. No arbitrary use of power. Now, court is saying that sometimes these demolitions can be malicious also. For example, in an area, encroachment can be done by multiple people, but only certain houses are demolished. Why is that reason? So that means there is arbitrariness or malicious things happen in the demolitions also. And another issue court highlighted was this process of demolition not following the due process of law. Now, what is meant by the due process of law? So, due process of law means that even though there is an existence of law, that law should be reasonable, and while application, it should be rational. For example, though the encroachment is illegal, but the application of law should be reasonable. That means in the overnight, you should not demolish the house because you should have to give adequate time to the residents for vacating the house or removing the important articles or instruments in the house or to rearrange the relocation for the family members. Now, this process has to be followed by the executive. That is what the due process of law the court is saying. Now, another important thing is that it is violation of Article 21. Why? Because right to shelter is part of the Article 21 as said by Supreme Court in many cases. Now, not only that, house is just not a physical structure, it is related to the dignity also. Now, Article 21 also has that right to live with dignity. Now, house gives certain kind of respect, status to the individuals. Demolition of house is a violation of Article 21. Now, other important thing the court highlighted was that principles of separation of power. Now, why it is related to the separation of powers? Because whether a person is illegally encroached on a particular land has to be decided by the courts, right? Now, executive is arbitrarily taking the decision. Now, hence it is against the separation of powers. Now, this is what the issues that the court highlighted in this article. Now, the next important thing is that the directions issued by the court. Now, the court said that if there is any issue of demolition, a 15 days prior notice to the occupants should be given so that they can arrange a vacation of the house or rearrangement for the family members. And court also said that actual demolition must be videographed so that there is transparency in the process. Now, another important issue highlighted by the court is that this demolition should be only the last option available. Until that, it has to be exercised other options available to the individuals, because a house is not just a physical structure, as I said before, it is an outcome of years of hard work and savings for the middle class and below middle class people. Hence, it gives certain identity belongingness to the individuals, hence it should be last resort. And next important thing highlighted was institutional accountability. Officers are using the powers given by the law arbitrarily. So when they are not following this due process of law, they should be accountable for their decisions. Now, this is what the court highlighted. Now, to give these directions, the court used Article 142 to complete justice, to do complete justice. Now, you know the Article 142, which means when there is a gap of legislation or executive, court use this article to ensure social justice. Now, as it is said before, this article may not be given in the examination directly. You can use this article as an example when it is asking about judicial activism. Even any question asking about a rule of law, violation of Article 21. When such questions are asked, you can use this as an example. This is the smart way of linking the news to the examination, right? Now we will come to the next article. Now this article is about delimitation process. Now before explaining the context of the news, I will explain what is delimitation process. Now delimitation is the process of rearranging the number of seats allocating in the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. This also involves fixing the boundaries of the territorial constituencies. Now, why there is a requirement of delimitation process? See, after every decade, there is change in demography of a state. For example, certain states may experience increase in the population. Certain states may experience a decrease in the population. Now, while allocating the resources by the central government, it has to look after the population data. Why? Because certain states having high population may require more money for their welfare and social activities, right? Than the population of a state. Now, what is the constitutional provisions regarding this? Now, Article 82 says that Parliament has the power to decide who conducts this delimitation process in which manner. As per this, Parliament periodically enacts delimitation acts. That is why it enacted delimitation acts in 1952, 1962, 1972, and 2001. These are the 4 times delimitation was conducted. Now, this is what the delimitation is means. So now the article is saying that the author of this article is someone related to the DMK party. Now he's saying from the southern India perspective. Now he is saying that recently Prime Minister said that before going to the 2029 elections, a fresh delimitation has to be conducted. Now this is what the saying. Now the author is saying that there are certain states, especially southern states, whose population control policies are very effective in nature, but they are discriminated by the central government because the population policies of the northern states, especially the Hindi speaking states of Bihar, West Bengal, UP, their population is very high. But the problem here is that the seats in the Lok Sabha are allocated based on the population. Now he is saying that there can be a political tussle or political inequality between the south and northern India. Why? He is saying that because of this delimitation process, the political party which has strong base in northern India may benefit better. Because if you see certain states like UP, West Bengal, Bihar having more parliamentary Lok Sabha seats than the southern states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. And not only that, it has been said that under the Finance Commission also, population as a category has a weightage of 15%. Under this context also, southern states are getting less funds. So the author is saying that India is a multicultural and multi-ethnic society. Hence, there should not be majoritarianism of one linguistic community. That is Hindi. In this article, the author is saying. Now, in this context, the author suggested certain solutions to avoid this problem. Now, the author is saying that there is a need of either extending this delimitation process for the next 25 years and freeze this process of delimitation. This is one of the suggestions that the author is giving. The other suggestion that the author is giving was that you may freeze the allocation of seats in the Lok Sabha, but continue the delimitation process of territorial boundaries within the states. Now, this is what one thing the author is saying. Now, other thing author is suggesting that transfer of subjects from the central list to the state list. Certain subjects are very important that can be facilitated to the state list to ensure balanced federalism. Now, this is what the author is saying. Now, this is what the context of the news. And the author highlighted certain important things. He is saying that presently southern states such as Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu are having only 25% of the parliamentary seats. Now he is saying that if at all this new delimitation process conducted, these seats may reduce because of the less population in the southern states. And he highlighted that certain states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka have total fertility rate TFR around 1.6. But he also said that certain states like UP, Bihar, and West Bengal has TFR around 3.5. So there is chances that the allocation of seats to these northern states may increase from present 40% of the parliamentary Lok Sabha seats to the 60%. This is what highlighted by the author. The author highlighted another important fact is that southern states have only 18% of the population, but they are contributing 35% to the GDP. But what they are getting under the Finance Commission is just 40% of what they are contributed to the direct taxes. But he is saying that certain northern states such as Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal will get 250 to 350% of what they contributed to the central taxes. Now, this is considered as discrimination from the author's perspective. Hence, the author is saying that delimitation is a threat to the India's diverse political, social, and cultural fabric. Now, this is what the context of the news. Now, this article is relevant from the examination perspective. How? If you see the previous year questions, every year there is a question asking about federalism alternatively, right? Now, there you can use this delimitation as an example. Now, if you see this here question, the questions are asking about Finance Commission. If you see, discuss the recommendations of the 13th Finance Commission, which has been a departure from the previous year commissions for strengthening the local government finances. Now, delimitation is a process, is linked to Finance Commission also. Now, other important thing is that if you see a previous year question 2020, it is saying that how far do you think cooperation, competition, and confrontation have shaped the nature of federalism in India? Now, this issue of delimitation can be seen as a confrontation and competition as well from that angle. So, this as a topic is very much important. Now, in this context, we understand certain important things about the delimitation process. What is the significance of this delimitation process? Firstly, fair representation. Has been said that constitutionally it is said that the ratio of proportion of the population in a constituency and to the seats allocated should be uniform across the states and within the state. Now, for that, fair representation is very important. For that, population numbers are important. That's why there is a need of delimitation. Next, equal distribution. Why? Because certain regions should not get preference over the others. Now, the regions with higher population getting more number of seats and more allocation of resources, then this should be avoided. Now, for that, delimitation is required. Federalism. Now, distribution of political power. Now, on the basis of delimitation only, the seats are distributed across the states. Now, next, incentivizing the population control measures. Now, delimitation is freeze to control the population in 1972. In this way, this is significant. Now, this is what the important thing from the main perspective and significance. Now, there are certain concerns regarding delimitation population. First is the regional disparity. Now, as it is said before that southern states having population of 18%, but they are contributing 35% of GDP. Now, recently it has been said that Karnataka also staged a protest that no representation without taxation. They are needing extra benefits for the southern states. Inadequate funding. As it is said before, 15th Finance Commission used 2011 as a census, but not 1971. Now, this is against the interest of southern states. Now, this also affects the reservation for SC/ST also. Why? Because already the southern states are getting less number of seats. Within that less number of seats, the allocation of SC/ST within the states will also affect it. Now, other issue is the political tussle. Now, recently Karnataka is claiming that because of this delimitation process, northern states are benefiting more financially. Not only that, BJP has a stronghold in certain states, especially in Hindi-speaking belt, and they are getting more political power. Now, political parties which are having stronghold in these populated states will have more chances of getting into power. That is what the allegation given by the southern states. Now, these are the concerns. Now, from the prelims perspective also, this is very important because there are previous year questions asked about the delimitation also. From the prelims perspective, just remember that this delimitation commission is appointed by the president. The orders of the delimitation commission has an effect of force of law and cannot be called into the question by any court. Now, the decisions of the delimitation commission has been taken by the opinion of majority. Now, what is the composition of the delimitation commission? Now, if we see here, it consists of retired Supreme Court judge, chief election commissioner, and respective state election commissioners. These are the things you have to remember from the prelims and mains perspective. Now, coming to the next article. Now, this article is about Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Recently, a survey has been conducted in certain villages and districts of the Jammu and Kashmir about the reach of this particular scheme. Now, in this context, this article is important from the examination. If you see GS paper 2 syllabus, there is a syllabus item of government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of the design and implementation. Even this author also highlighted certain issues in the design and implementation of Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Now, these are the things we are going to discuss. Now, in this article, the author mentioned that effectiveness and issues faced by the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Now, we will discuss that. Now, first of all, what is meant by this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana? Now, under this Yojana, government is providing LPG cylinders to the people, especially to the below poverty families. When it comes to effectiveness of this Ujjwala Yojana, the author highlighted that in rural areas, 85% of the households got benefited from this Ujjwala Yojana. Now, this indicating that efficiency of the government schemes. But interestingly, the author also highlighted that around 75% of the households are still using traditional way of cooking also, along with the cylinders. Other important finding this author found was that there is a reduction in the cases of cough, chest infections, and headaches because of the use of LPG cylinders. But the author found certain limitations in the scheme in these areas. The first thing is that lack of awareness. About what? There is lack of awareness of the damage caused by the traditional way of cooking. And there is lack of awareness of benefits of using LPG among the people in the Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this is one of the issue. Now, other important issue is that gap of communication. Now, it is found that around 30 to 40% of the households where women are involved in the cooking process, but they don't have access to mobile phones. Hence, there is no information to get awareness about the health benefits of using LPG connections. And it is found that around 64% of the households don't have television also. Hence, there is less chance of getting awareness about these schemes and benefit of the schemes, right? And the other important thing is that financial burden of refilling. It is found that the reason for using both traditional way of cooking and LPG is that people are finding financially burden for refueling these LPG cylinders. Now, other important thing is that interesting finding is that the author found the households which are using traditional way of cooking have lack of educated people. And this is high probability that where there is educated people are using electronic appliances such as electric cooker and LPG cylinders continuously. Another thing highlighted by the author is that many people are in apprehension that traditional way of cooking have more taste. Now, this is one of the cultural barrier to prevent use of traditional way of cooking. Now, other important limitation is that barrier of distribution points in the hilly areas of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, these are the challenges highlighted by this author for implementation of PM Ujjwala Yojana. Now, from the examination perspective, you can use this article as an example if at all any question or asked under this syllabus headline that what are the challenges faced by the government policies in its design and implementation. Now, from the prelims perspective, you have to know certain facts that are important because UPSC has a habit of asking questions about the government schemes. Now, PM Ujjwala Yojana, the implementing agency for PM Ujjwala Yojana is Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Now, important thing is that the beneficiaries are BPL families. Now, another important fact is that here the connections of LPG cylinders are issued in the name of women of the households. Now, this is the important fact. Now, next thing is that the identification of BPL families is done based on the Socio-Economic Caste Census 2011. Now, these are the facts you have to remember from the prelims perspective. Now, coming to the next article. Now, the next article is about flights to Bali were cancelled after volcanic eruption in Indonesia. Now, why this article is important? Now, if you see previous year questions, especially in GS paper 1, UPSC has the habit of questions asking about volcanoes, right? Now, there is a previous year question in which UPSC asked that what is the effect of volcanic eruption, especially on the regional environment? Now, this is what the question asked by the UPSC. Now, not only that, if you see the previous year prelims question, it is asking about which of the above are responsible for bringing dynamic changes on the surface of the earth, where volcanoes are the one of the reason. Now, other important thing is that in previous year mains question, UPSC asked about which of the volcanoes are recently erupted. Now, you have to mention certain volcanoes as an example in the mains examination also. For that, you have to remember here, Mount Lewotobi Laki in Indonesia recently erupted. Now, you can use this as an example in the examination. Now, not only that, if at all a question asked about effect of volcanic eruptions, you can say that the flights in that area were cancelled because of the unfavorable weather caused by the clouds of volcanic eruptions. Now, this is what about this article. Now, before leaving, try to answer these questions. How many of the delimitation commissions have been constituted by the government of India till December 2023? Now, try to answer these questions in the comment section based on our discussions. Now, with reference to the delimitation commission, consider the following statements. The orders of the delimitation commission cannot be challenged in the court of law. Yes, this option is correct statement. When the orders of the delimitation commission are laid before the Lok Sabha or state legislative assembly, there cannot be modification in the orders. Yes, this is also correct statement. The answer is both 1 and 2. Now try to answer this question by yourself in the comment section. Thank you. Have a nice day.